Hi, it's Jo Painter here of confidencecoachingforwomen.co.uk. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I hope you've had a really relaxing weekend and enjoyed some of the sunshine. So what I'd like to share with you today are my thoughts on comparing yourself to others. And I'd like to explore that a little bit in terms of how that affects our confidence and how it affects our voices that we hear in terms of our inner critic. I'd say about 70% of the clients I see have said to me that comparing themselves to others is actually a problem or an issue that they have in their lives. And of that, I would have to actually say as well, and I would admit that comparing myself to others is something that I've struggled with as well. So that's why I thought I'd explore it with you today. And if you'd like to add any questions or thoughts as we go through them, please pop them in the comments box below and I'll hopefully be able to read them. So I don't know about you, but when I say the words comparing yourself to others, it gives me that uncomfortable and insecure feeling. And that's probably because I find it difficult to compare myself without putting myself in the negative light. I always tend to think of myself as the worst. But that's not actually true, because our brains naturally want to organise, file and rank things. So when we look at situations or ourselves, we automatically want to put them into an exercise, or we all want to organise them. Hi Paula, thanks for joining us. And when we do that, it can be very positive. If we talk in a positive way and we look at it with curiosity, it can be very helpful. However, if we look at it negatively and we use it to beat ourselves up with, that's when it becomes a problem. So for people out there who struggle with comparing ourselves to others, have a think about the types of situations in which you do it. And I think you'll be quite surprised about the number of times that you find yourself doing the comparing yourself to others and the number of different situations in which you do it. Some of these might sound familiar to you. For example, if you're in a meeting at work and a colleague comes up with an idea or comes up with a comment that is really approved of and other people really like, do you start to compare yourself and think, why didn't I come up with something like that? Why can't I get approval from other people? And maybe at the end of the meeting, they walk off with your boss, chatting away amicably about the idea. And that little creeping, comparing yourself comes in again. How can they get on so well with the boss? Does the boss think so well of me? And that can be really negative for you. Imagine yourself on a girls' night out. You can't help but just check out what's everybody else wearing, who's chatting the most, who's the liveliest. Am I like that as everybody else is? Again, comparing yourself to others. And of course, Facebook can be one of the worst things for comparing yourself to others. You know, we see romantic weekends that couples are having, family weekends, or what other people's children are achieving. All of those things trigger the comparing ourselves to others button and can really make you feel like you're not good enough. The trouble is, it's a total no-win situation because you're not comparing apples with apples. For example, on Facebook, you're comparing just the window dressing of what people see on Facebook compared to the whole of you, the whole of your life, your weaknesses and flaws as well as your strengths. So you're not comparing the same thing at all. It also really triggers your inner critic. It makes that voice, whatever voice you have in your head, and thoughts come out. And that can lead to resentment, to bitterness, and to a lack of confidence. And of course, it also affects you in terms of wasting your time and energy. If you're spending a lot of time focusing on other people and how you compare to them, you're not spending that time on you and focusing on being the best version of yourself. And that's what I would suggest you do. I was just thinking before I did this about some of my clients. And there was somebody I caught up with last week who was actually, hi Verity, good to see you. A client that I caught up with last week, she did my career transformation program. And one of the things she talked about right at the beginning of the programme was that in meetings she struggled to do updates to the board. She was a highly successful accountant and worked in finance, and monthly she had to do an update to the board. Every time she went to do this update, she got really nervous and would compare herself to everybody else in the room that were doing updates as well. That inner voice came in saying, oh, you're not as confident, you're not as passionate, I don't think they approve of you, I don't think they think you do as good a job as the others. And that would really affect the way she did her presentation and her confidence in the rest of the job. We worked together on some techniques and on changing her mindset. And when I caught up with her last week, she said to me that she still hears that inner critic. She still sees that comparing to others, but now she knows how to quiet it down, how to ignore it, and to carry on regardless. So it is possible to manage your inner critic, but it's just not possible to get rid of it. So my challenge to you is to recognise when you start comparing yourself to others. Recognise the situations and the triggers that happen. What situations do you find yourself doing it in? Is it at work? Is it when you're out with the girls? Is it when you look in the mirror in the morning? Is it when your husband or kids have a go at you? What is the situation that causes you to trigger the comparing to others? Once you've recognised that, then have a real listen to the voice and the thoughts that come into your head, because that's all they are. They're not you, they're just thoughts and an inner critical voice. It's not coming from you, it's not true, and you don't have to believe it. You can choose to ignore it. So what I suggest you do is imagine that there's a dial, a volume dial there. Imagine yourself turning that dial down so you can't hear that inner critical voice. You can't hear those thoughts that are saying to you that you're not good enough or as good as the other person. And once you've turned that volume down, it's easier to carry on and just actually be yourself and to do what you plan to do. Now imagine if you could ignore that inner critic, if you could stop comparing yourself negatively to others. Wouldn't that just make you feel more relaxed and enjoy life? Wouldn't you be able to be a real authentic self at work? So give it a go. It does work. It takes practice and it feels uncomfortable initially, but it does work. So just to summarise, comparing yourself to others when you do it negatively is a no-win situation, because you're not comparing like with like. You're listening to that inner critical voice, which isn't true. It causes resentment and it wastes your time and energy. So the key thing to do, and it's a lot simpler than you think, is to recognise when you compare yourself to others and listen to the voice you hear. Label it, say, there's my inner critic, and then turn the volume down on it. And when you've done that, you'll find it so much easier to go on and play big and be who you authentically can. I hope you found that useful. And I'd like just to suggest that if you want some more support on how to deal with your inner critic or on being more visible, that you contact me at confidencecoaching.co.uk, and I'll put a link in the box below. If you've got any thoughts or comments on this Facebook Live, then please put them in the comment box as well. I'd love to hear what you think. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good relax. And I'll be back soon with another Facebook Live, so do follow me. Thanks a lot. It's Jo Painter, Confidence Coaching for Women.co.uk. Bye.